Good morning. Today is Friday, 19th January 2018. I'm Ebony Brandon. These are today's top stories. Nationally, Dr. Terence Drew is urging the government workers exposed to high carbon dioxide levels to seek medical treatment. Internationally, the U.S. government could shut down if the funding bill isn't passed. And in sport, Rafael Nadal has secured his spot in the final 16 in the Australian Open. We also have today's weather forecast and camp update. Now for a look at the news developments in detail. Persons working out of the premises which house the Ministry of Labour and National Drug Council are being urged not to return to work until the premises are declared safe by occupational safety authorities and to see their doctors urgently. This warning is coming from internist Dr. Terence Drew, who is warning of the impact that exposure to high levels of carbon dioxide can have on a person's health. The symptoms of exposure can be mild, becoming severe with exposure over extended periods. A host of symptoms can present when persons are exposed to high levels of carbon dioxide. Often, the symptoms resulting from the underlying issue, carbon dioxide exposure, can prove difficult to diagnose. Over time, this can lead to a person developing conditions such as hypercapnia or elevated levels of carbon dioxide in the blood and respiratory acidosis, which occurs when the lungs can't remove enough of the carbon dioxide produced by the body. According to Dr. Terence Drew, the health concerns for persons working in that unsafe environment are real and should be treated with urgency, not only by the Ministry of Labour, but also the Ministry of Health.
Okay, this is a health situation where the Ministry of Health is supposed to get involved. Because here you have an environment where people's health is being affected by a contaminated environment, and a political decision is being made so as to save face, putting the health of the workers at risk. And so I'm asking all those people to get out of there until the Bureau of Standards would have returned and declared the environment safe for them to work. This is, of course, very, very, very sad. And I want to really hit this issue. I'm calling on the PS for Labour. This is, of course, in no way a personal attack. This is a serious health issue, and you need to be prudent and protect the workers' health.
Dr. Drew also identified some of the symptoms which can present with exposure to carbon dioxide. He says the workers need to be made aware of this so that if they have experienced any of these symptoms, they can see their physician right away.
When you have about 2% there, workers can have headaches. Dyspnea. What does dyspnea and mild exertion mean? What does that mean? It means shortness of breath when you walk upstairs, walk downstairs, or walk around the office. If you have been working in the office of the Ministry of Labour or the Drug Council and this has been happening to you, this could actually be the cause of why you are having these frequent headaches and having shortness of breath or gasping for air when you do anything physical. You can go on from that and you can go to sweating. And you can also have shortness of breath at rest, which means without doing anything, you're up in that building and you're just feeling short of breath. As it gets more, you can have dizziness and your blood pressure can go up. You can start suffering from high blood pressure. And the shortness of breath, of course, can get worse. Some people can have hearing problem, visual problem. They can start having tremors and trembling from being in an environment with excessive concentration of carbon dioxide. And if it gets worse, you can go on to have increased heart rate, which means your heart beating fast. You can have worsening of the shortness of breath. You can breathe properly. You can have intense sweating and even more dizziness. And if it gets worse, you can go up to having severe muscle twitching, drowsiness. You come to work and you're up there and you feel drowsy every minute you want to sleep. And some people, if it gets really bad, can go into a state of unconsciousness.
In other news, a Caribbean Forum or CARA Forum senior officials meeting on Brexit will conclude today in St. Kitts. The two-day meeting, which began on Thursday, is intended to start the discussion among the 15 member states on how Britain's departure from the European Union could create trade issues for the Caribbean. The January 18th and 19th meetings are being held with the objective of forming a mutually beneficial negotiation strategy for the new trade agreements. The CARIFORM Economic Partnership Agreement, or EPA, is a comprehensive agreement covering the trade of goods and services for the Caribbean Community Islands and the Dominican Republic. The United Kingdom's withdrawal from the European Union leaves the UK-Caribbean trading relations at a crossroads after more than 4 decades of trading being governed by EU policies. Although trade officials say Brexit presents challenges of ensuring trade continuity for CARIFORUM, they remain optimistic that opportunities to redefine and reshape future trade and investment relations exists. In international developments, a spending bill to keep the United States government operating has passed the House of Representatives. The legislation to release funding for federal agencies until the middle of next month will now be debated in the Senate. Government agencies are warning employees of a shutdown later on today if the money isn't approved. The Democrats say they will not support a bill unless there are guarantees that young adult migrants who entered the U.S. illegally will be protected. Kimberly Halkett reports.
How are you doing? My name is Carlos Roa.
Carlos Roa was brought to the United States from Venezuela illegally by his parents at the age of 2. He's university educated and now lives in Chicago, but is spending his vacation in Washington to plead his case before lawmakers.
Yeah, we're all here to support for the DREAM Act. How you doing, Senator? I wanted to check in with you about your support for the DREAM Act.
Roa needs congressional support to pass a law so he can stay in the United States legally under a program called DACA.
I don't necessarily think it's fair that they're playing politics with our lives. I mean, it's really problematic, and the fact that we are real people. We are support. We are contributing towards the economy. Like my employers, our employers are concerned about the political, what's politically at stake.
DACA recipients like Roa have become central in a debate over funding that could shut down the U.S. government at midnight Friday. Within required 2018 government funding legislation, Democrats are demanding protections for DACA recipients. They also want money for health insurance for low-income children. Republicans are demanding money for President Trump's border wall along the southern border with Mexico to stop illegal immigration. They also want funding to rebuild the U.S. military.
If for any reason it shuts down, the worst thing is what happens to our military.
But Democrats say DACA recipients are the real victims in this battle if protections aren't put in place. Some protesting in the U.S. Congress were even arrested for advocating on behalf of illegal immigrants without status. It's possible a short-term funding deal could keep the government open, allowing time for bigger issues to be addressed. The last time there was a government shutdown was nearly 5 years ago, and it could happen again if Democrats and Republicans aren't able to overcome their differences.
And in sport this morning, world number 1 Rafael Nadal continued his straightforward progress through the Australian Open with a 6-1, 6-3, 6-1 win over Bosnia's Damir Zamir. The 31-year-old, who has won only one of his 16 Grand Slam titles in Australia, wrapped up his third-round victory in an hour and 50 minutes. The Spaniard is yet to drop a set so far in the tournament and will face Argentine Diego Schwartzman next. Nadal has won all 3 of his previous matches against the world number 26. The Spaniard is seeded to meet Marin Cilic in the quarterfinals before a last 4 meeting with Grigor Dimitrov and a final against Roger Federer. And with that look at sport, we now have a look at today's weather forecast. Over St. Kitts Nevis today, we'll experience fair to partly cloudy conditions with a 20% or slight chance of showers. Tonight will be partly cloudy with a 20% or slight chance of showers. Seas are moderate with wave heights reaching 1.2 to 1.8 meters or 4 to 6 feet. Cautions remain in effect for small craft operators and sea bathers against above normal sea conditions. Winds are east to east northeasterly ranging between 9 to 14 miles per hour. The sea level pressure is 1017 millibars or 30.03 inches. The sun will rise tomorrow at 6:34 a.m. and set today at 5:59 p.m. Across the rest of the eastern Caribbean, a weak surface to low-level trough will generate unsettled weather conditions across the Windward Islands, Barbados, and Trinidad and Tobago today and tonight. Cloudy spells and periodic showers are likely beginning early this morning. Meanwhile, moisture and instability associated with a frontal system between Cuba and Hispaniola will generate similar weather conditions across Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. Elsewhere, the Atlantic high-pressure system will dominate, keeping shower activity to a minimum, with at most a moderate chance of showers possible. And before we go, a recap of today's top stories. Nationally, Dr. Terence Drew is urging government workers exposed to high carbon dioxide levels to seek medical help. Internationally, the United States government could shut down if the funding bill isn't passed today. And in sport, Rafael Nadal has secured his spot in the final 16 in the Australian Open. I've been your presenter, Ebony Brandon. Thank you so much for tuning in for this morning's edition of the SKN News Now. Stay with us. Coming up next, Carib Update.